Yeah, the recording is on.
Okay.
So let me share my screen. So hope my screen is visible, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we were looking at lookup and reference functions in Excel. So, and we had touched on VLOOKUP. So we were all okay with using VLOOKUP. So we also touched on index and match separately. And now we had reached a point whereby we wanted to combine index and match together. So remember, when we are using the VLOOKUP function, we remember one of the arguments when we were using VLOOKUP was for us to specify the row index number or the column index number, sorry. So when we say is equals to VLOOKUP, you can see one of the arguments is the column index number, right? So
Yeah.
same applies to also whenever you are using HLOOKUP, which is also another function that we look at, HLOOKUP. So when I type is equals to HLOOKUP, which stands for horizontal lookup, you see, it requires us to specify the row index number, right? So this is still okay, but now there are some instances whereby using the HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP will limit you because each and every time you will have to specify the row index number or the column index number. You see, so that is where now the index and match come in so that you don't have to specify the column number and the row number each and every time you want to look up a certain value. That is where the index and match is coming in. It is coming in to solve the problem of specifying or hard coding the row index number and the column index number. Because in this example that you are seeing here, if I was supposed to use, for instance, the HLOOKUP function, I could have to specify the row number each and every time I'm using it, which is quite tedious when I'm dealing with a large data set or a data that has many rows. The same case applies also to when I'm using VLOOKUP again. I have to specify the column index number each and every time. So what if now we have a function or a combination of functions that can solve both problems at a go so that each time you are trying to reference or to look up a value, you don't have to specify a row index number or a column index number, right? So that is where the index and match come in. It comes in to solve that issue. So it will make you more efficient if you know how to use it, right? So remember, whenever you are using the index and match, let's take, for instance, this is our data set. It is a call center data set that specifies the number of calls offered per hour interval, you can see, and also the queue, calls answered, abandoned calls, HT, and also Espero. So whenever we are using the index and match function, remember how we were using the index function alone. So you can think of an index as return a value that is at the intersection of both the column and the row. That value that is found at the intersection is what is called the index value, right? So think of it just like coordinates or longitudes and latitudes where they intersect. That is what the index is trying to do. And the match function is trying to find the relative position of a certain value within a list of values. For instance, here, if we say, what is the position of this interval in this list? So we'll use the match function to find that position. So when we combine both functions, it becomes so powerful in that it aids in solving the problem of the H lookup and the V lookup as well. So whenever we are combining the index and match, one of the arguments that we'll have to write after we've written the index function is the match function. So remember, match is returning the position, right? For instance, when we say is equals to match, so it will tell you which value are you looking for. For instance, if it is, for instance, let me say it's 845 in this list here, 845. So we'll specify I'm looking for that value. And then from what range? That is the lookup array. So we'll tell our Excel, look for this value from this range. So, and here the range is this. The range is the whole of this. This is our range. So that will be our first match function, right? So we will be looking at the position of a particular value within a list or within that range, right? And then
Mm.
remember also, whenever we are using the index and match, we have to use the match function twice, two times. That is, we first have to look at a value that is in the vertical array. Vertical array is this one. And also, we'll have to look at that value again on the horizontal array. So the key result is it will look at this range here, also come to look at the position here, and then it will return the value that is in between here, the value that it will find at the intersection. Don't know whether I'm clear about how we intend to use the index and match function. So we will do an example for us to see how we can apply it, solve our problem. So let's take, for instance, this is our table summary. And we want to get rid of this. We want to get rid of that. Right now, the problem that we are asking ourselves is we want to know the calls that were offered, for instance, at 8 a.m., the number of calls that came in at 8:15, 8:30, 8:45, and so on, right? Remember, when we decide to use the horizontal lookup, because this data is wide, it is a long data because you can see it has the row headers, not the column headers. So in such circumstances, we use the H lookup. So if we were to use the H lookup here, we'll have to specify the row index number each and every time, right? So we want to return the number of calls offered at this particular intervals, the number of calls that were answered at this interval as well, the number of calls that were abandoned, and then the AHT, and also the SLA, right? So we can achieve that by using the index and match function. So let us see how it's working now. So the first thing we have to write is equals to index. So the index function, the first one of its argument is the array. So think of the array as the map where your value will be found, right? So I'll come to my data here and specify this range. Because I don't want this range to move, I'll have to lock that range because I know the value that I'm looking for falls within this range. So that's why I'm specifying it and locking it so that I know I'll drag formulas so that that map or that range doesn't change. I have to lock it. So the normal index function requires you to specify the row number and also the column number, which is also an optional argument. But remember, right now, we are simply combining the index and match function. So remember, right now we specified where our value will be found. It will be found in this range, right? So we'll have to now introduce the first match, what I was talking about earlier. So the first match tells us we have to look for the lookup value, which is this, which is the first argument. So remember, whenever we are introducing the first match, your first argument, it should be a vertical lookup. Take note of that. It should be what I have highlighted in yellow. So we will search for that value from a range that is highlighted in yellow. So never interchange the rows and the column. So what we are looking for is the interval. So I'll come to my summary sheet and specify I'm looking for the 8 a.m. interval. Because I'll drag this across, I'll have to put a dollar sign there. And then I'll have to now go to the second argument and specify what? The lookup array. So we are looking for the 8 a.m. interval from this array here. From this array. So I'll have to lock it so that it doesn't move. It's like this, like that. And also lock it at this point. And remember, I have to specify whether I need an exact match or an approximate match. So I'll put, I need an approximate match. After that, I'll simply close that bracket. And then remember, we are looking at both the row and the column, right? So the first match, we've looked at the row, which was the first argument. But remember, the array should be vertical. So we'll introduce the second match, which will be now our second argument. So remember, I'll come to the summary sheet and specify I'm looking for the course offered. And then I'll have to simply put a dollar sign before A2 so that I can drag it down. And then I'll put a comma and then specify the lookup array. So I'll come to my data and specify I'm looking for this name for this value from this array here. And then I'll simply lock this as well, lock it again, and then lock and lock again by using a dollar sign. And I'll have to put a comma and specify that I need an exact match. So after doing that, I'll have to close and then close again. So having done that, I have now completed the index and match function. So we have looked at the vertical range and the horizontal range as well. And we have our map inside here that our value will be found. So when we simply press enter, it will give you the number of calls offered at this particular interval, right? So after just writing that formula that way, we won't have to write it again. We'll simply drag it and also drag it across. So this one is what I was telling you, solve the problem of the lookup and the HLOOKUP function, in that you don't have to specify each and every time the row index number and the column index number. And you've seen, you just write the formula once and then drag it, and that's all. So if you were using the VLOOKUP, you could have come and specify the column index number for all this, and that could be time consuming, right? If you were using the HLOOKUP, you could have to come and specify the row index number each and every time. Also, that could be time consuming. So the index and match function comes in handy to solve that problem. Have you understood? Olivia, I hope now this is somehow clear compared to last time.
Yeah, way better. But again, I think I lost you, Kidogo, when you are now giving that example because my internet kept kicking me out. But I'll follow the recording. But today, Angalao, yeah, can say it's the explanation is way much better than last time.
Yes, and last time
Yeah,
we were
and now
just
I know how to use it. Last time I didn't even know how I'm relating with it. I
yeah.
didn't
So
know how to use it.
yeah, last time I was teaching you the pieces, right? I was telling you how the index alone works, right? And then tell you again how the match function works. That was building you a foundation that you later come to apply those two together. And this is the result now. We're combining the two, and you've seen the power of combining the two of them. Sawa sawa. Violet, how are you?
Hi, Fred. Can you hear me?
Yeah, though Kombali.
A minute.
So can I repeat once more, Olivia?
Yes, please. Thank you.
How about now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh,
Violet.
perfect. I'm fine, Fred. Happy New Year.
Happy New
Happy
Year
New
to
Year.
you. It's been long, actually.
I know, I know. I'm just trying to follow what you're doing. I hope when I combine 1+1 with the previous classes, I'll be able to understand what you're doing.
So we are talking about the index and match function, and what we are just trying to do, we are trying to understand how we can apply it to solve our contact center problem. For instance, we are having a problem here. We want to know, for instance, the number of calls that were offered at this particular intervals. See? So we are taking the presumption that we have data elsewhere, maybe in a certain sheet. And from this data, let's say you've downloaded this data from an ACD system, and it looks this way. But your report summary looks like this, something like this. And we want to know now the number of calls answered, abandoned, HTSL calls offered for these particular intervals, right? So one of the options that we normally consider is the use of the VLOOKUP function and also the HLOOKUP function. So using them isn't bad, but it has limitations. And the major limitation that I've told you is each and every time you are using the VLOOKUP function, you have to specify the column index number. And whenever you are using the HLOOKUP function, you have to specify the row index number, which is tedious or time consuming when you are dealing with a large data set. So that's why we are using the index and match function to solve that problem. How's out? So to understand how to combine both of them, you must know what the index function is doing and also what the match function is doing. So for us to know what the index function is doing, you simply take a scenario that whenever you are using a map, you'll have to maybe specify the zone or the region, right? So what we are looking for is found in this zone that I'm highlighting here. Let me even, yeah, that zone is where our possible value could be found, right? So that is the index alone, just telling you, hey, look for this value from this region. Then, after doing the index, we have to ask ourselves the position where that value could be found. Yes, we have the array, we have this whole map, but where does that value out? So that value is found at the intersection of both the row and the column. Let me just highlight this intersection. For instance, if we were looking for calls answered So this value here that I will highlight in blue is the intersection of both the row and the column. So that is what the match function will do. So it will return the position. It will look for the position of what we are looking for on both the row and also on both the column as well. So that is why we will use the match function twice. The match function that will look at the vertical list here, and the second match function that will look at the horizontal list here. And the result will be, it will return the values that will be found at the intersection of both the column and the row. I don't know whether I'm clear to that point.
Yes.
Yes, so far so good.
Yes. So that being said, now let's look how we are combining them. So today even we were just looking at the index and match function alone because last time it was hectic. People didn't understand. So is equals to index. So when you type is equals to index, your first argument is the array. The array function specifies the map that I was talking about. So we'll come to our data, highlight the map. Our map is here. You can call it the zone, whichever you like. So, but we don't want our zone to move. So we'll have to lock this. We'll lock this again. And also we'll have again to lock this. Then after locking, remember when we were using the index alone, we have to specify the row number and also the column number, but it's optional. So instead of us now doing that, we introduce the match function. But we will simply follow this syntax as well, because remember, we are looking at the row number and the column number, which will be taken care of by our two match functions. So, but remember again, don't be tricked by a row number, in that whenever you come to select the array, you start with the horizontal range. No, we always start with the vertical array here, because when you interchange, you won't get the correct result. So in our row number here, this will be taken care of by our first match function. So we'll have to introduce the first match function, which is this. So when I type match, the first argument is the lookup value. So think of a lookup value as what you are looking for. So what we are looking for in our summary here, we are looking at the number of courses offered at these particular intervals. So it's 8 a.m., which is the first interval, and I'll have to put a lock after B. So B1, there will be a dollar sign there to specify that I'm looking for that value, but I'll have to drag it across. So we'll have to specify now, where will we find the interval? Just ask yourself that question. Where can we find the interval in this data? So the interval is found here. We'll have to specify the interval. And we will lock it this way, this way, this way, and also we lock it here. So the reason why we are locking is, we'll have to drag these formulas. And if we don't lock, the reference will change and we'll start getting the LA errors, which is something that we don't want to have, or we will get the ref errors. So that is why we are locking. So remember, we have the complete lock, which is absolute, and we have the partial lock, which is relative. So the partial lock implies that if we intend to drag across and we want that value to change, we'll put the lock after the letter or after the column. But if we will drag vertical, we will put before. So then, so that is it. So we've specified where our value will be found. So we have to specify, do we want an exact match or an approximate match? So we need an exact match. That's put 0 or false. And then we'll have to also introduce our second match function, which is the column index. So think of it as the column index number. So what we've done before is the row index number. So what we are doing now is the column index number. So which will be taken care of by the second match function. So we introduce this match function. So what we are looking for at the moment is this. Remember, we'll have to drag this down. So we'll have to put a dollar sign. And then we have to specify the range where that value can be found. So calls offered can be found in this range. Also lock, please, lock, so that it doesn't move. Lock again. Lock again this. So after doing that, we have to specify whether it's an exact match or an approximate match. So you can either type false or simply select 0. So after doing that, our arguments are now complete. We specify the first match, which was our row index in our normal HLOOK, and also the second match, which is the which has replaced the VLOOKUP that will always look at the column index number. So think of the first match as replacing the horizontal lookup, which is the HLOOKUP, and the second match as replacing the VLOOKUP. Then you simply close. So after you've done that, we've now completed. Yours is just dragging now. Yeah, that's it. Hope it's clear now. I've been understood earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Najaribu. Can I take you guys through?
Yes, yeah, take us through, please. Let me just do away with everything, right?
Yeah.
It's good so that it will also reinforce your understanding. Yes,
Sure.
yes, let's
All
go.
right. Okay. So the starting point is we want now the index. And so we type in our formula equals index. We check the data array. We have our big data here in data. Yeah. So select B. Yeah. So that whole thing. I did not understand. Oh, so that is the interval. Okay. So we select that, we go back to our formula. So this is where we introduce our second. Okay, you will lock it first so that it doesn't move. Where are we locking it? Between B and
B
2
and G
and
and
G 35 and 3. Yeah.
mhm,
Comma.
mhm. Yes,
Okay.
let's
We are
continue.
locking the whole thing. All right. So this is where we introduce our first match because we need to first work with the vertical, then the horizontal. So match. Yeah.
Mhm.
Our first data will be the interval because that's what we are looking for. No. So we go back to our summary. Sorry. What we are looking for is the metric.
Yes, at this interval, 8 a.m., the first one.
At
Yes. Mhm. Let's go on. Olivia, are you there?
sorry. Comma.
Huh?
We go back to our data. 8 a.m. is under the interval. So that is what we select. Column
Huh?
A. Then we again lock it completely.
Huh?
Right. So we also need to confirm whether it's an exact or less than or greater, but ours should be exact. So that's where.
Yes. Good.
So
Uh-huh.
yes, close it. Then introduce the second match.
So I'll have to put a comma first, then introduce
Yes,
that one.
comma. Introduce the second match where now we will be looking up with the row.
Yes.
So here what we need is it really here?
Yes, I'm in the summary sheet.
If we go back to data,
The data so what we are looking for, you see this lookup value here.
yeah,
Hii lookup value iko hapa, ndo hii. Sawa?
column A,
Ndo hiyo
A2.
ni A2. So
Also the lookup values calls offered.
and
Mhm.
then sasa tunaenda kwa data.
Ndio unaenda sasa kwa data across that range.
Sasa tuna select from B to B1, sawa?
Yeah.
And also
Hey.
take note, the way also you reference, because let me just finish so that I tell you. So you know, and then you'll have to specify the exact match, right?
Yeah.
And
Close
then
the
you will have
second
to
bracket, then the
close
last
what?
bracket, initial one. Yeah, close both.
Yes. Well done. Naona umeshika. So chenye nilikuwa nasema ni unaona, wakati una specify these ranges here of both the horizontal and the vertical, don't do this. Usiseme hivi. You see this, nimeanzia A1 to G1. Sawa. Start here. Start here. E1 to G1. Don't start from A1. Start here, A2 here. Kwenda huku. Hapa lazima kukuwe na kakitu kako distinct hapo. Sawa. So ndio sasa ikue like if I'm looking at the intersection of this and this, I can get this. No, kama una get. So if I'm looking at the intersection of, for instance, the 8 a.m. interval, it should be this here and this here. Penye zinakuja kukutania ni wapi? Zinakutania hapa. That's what I should be looking for. But sasa ukikuja kusema ati you are looking this way, let me just highlight it. And also you are looking this way again. This is wrong. So you won't get the correct result. So always take note of that. Yeah, for you to get the correct result, please take note of that. So I'm happy mmeshika jinsi ya kutumia index and match, which will also help you a lot in your work. Instead of writing so many VLOOKUPs, to specify row index number, column index number, hizo zote, you can simply do an index and match and you get your report done within minutes. Na imagine tu leo ingefaa tu tuangalie tu index and match. Do you know this class is over?
Olivia.
Right? So mine is just comprehension, and you should understand what each function is doing, not cramming. No, when you focus on cramming and not understanding, when the scenario changes, then you will have a problem. Because it will not always be this. This is just an example, right? This is just an example. So when scenarios change, because you did not understand, you cramped. So you want to know how to apply. Just reason with Excel. Whenever you are writing a formula, reason what Excel is doing. And the good thing is you have so many sources of reference. You have YouTube, you have AI, you can reference. You have all the resources. So nothing should be difficult here. Because ni wewe tu utafanya ikuwe ngumu. Wewe mwenyewe. So scenarios where you'll find yourself where you'll need to use the index at match. So scenarios where you see you have to write so many VLOOKUPs. Just know you need to introduce index at match. Scenarios where you find yourself you have to write so many HLOOKUPs. Just know that is the right moment when you have to use the index and match. Sini sawasawa Olivia and Agnes. So I'm happy pia if Agnes is not violated. I'm happy now also if you've gotten something out of this and whether you can also be able to work with it on your own. Let's hope we are on the same page at the moment.
Yes. Yes, we are. I guess once I get to check on the VLOOKUP and the HLOOKUP, and then I can see you've said they are a bit complex, but this one is making it simpler, correct?
The VLOOKUP and the HLOOKUP, they are not that hard because you simply have to specify what you are looking for and also the row index number and the column index number. So all this is coming to do is each and every time you use the HLOOKUP, you have to specify the row index number. So put yourself in a situation whereby you have a large data and you have to write so many HLOOKUP functions. So that is the best scenario when you can use the index and match. So another scenario where you have to write so many VLOOKUPs, right? So VLOOKUP itself is powerful, but it's limited when now you are dealing with a large data whereby you have to specify the column index number each and every time, which is tedious and also it's time consuming, right? So that is the best scenario when you can introduce the index and match function. So this is just coming to help the VLOOKUP and the HLOOKUP. But I'm not disputing that HLOOKUP is not good and also the VLOOKUP is not good. So all are good, but now the circumstances, when circumstances change, you'll find one is better than the other. So circumstances whereby you have to write so many VLOOKUPs, circumstances where you find yourself, you have to write so many HLOOKUPs. That is when the index and match is coming in place. Because sasa,
Yeah. I've understood you.
sawa. So, I think the last thing that I just want to talk about is the HLOOKUP function. So we had previously talked about the VLOOKUP. So Violet, if you haven't, if you have no idea how VLOOKUP is used, I think there is a recording for the same I had shared. So you can go and look at the VLOOKUP. What we had not looked at is the HLOOKUP function. So HLOOKUP function can help you address the ad hoc questions that you might maybe encounter or that you might be asked. So your manager walks in and tells you, I want you to give me the number of calls that were offered, maybe at these intervals. Let's say the 8 a.m. interval. And I'm making the presumption that you are having a very large data. This is simply for illustration purposes. So he has told you, give me the number of calls that were offered at this 10 a.m. interval. And these are at random. So he has said, I want 10 a.m. Number of calls that were offered at 8:30 a.m. And then told you again, I need the calls offered at 12:30 here. And then told you again, 4 p.m. Told you he wants to find these metrics. And let's say by presumption you have this data. So let me introduce these other ones as well. So these are metrics. These are metrics here. So, so the question that you've asked, Mama just want to know this piece. He doesn't want other information. Hataki hii data yote, hataki hii report yote. Yeye amekuambia tu nipee course zenye zilikuwa offered at 10 a.m. Nipee course zenye zilikuwa offered at 4 p.m. Also give me SL as well, HT, abandoned calls, and also the calls that were cancelled. Right? So a data set that is arranged in this format, it is called a horizontal data set. It is in horizontal format. This, I want to show you the difference. Let me show you the difference here. Let me paste values first. If, for instance, I do this, and I can as well have this data in this format. When I've just transposed it, when I transpose, I mean I'm switching columns to be rows and rows to be columns. This is the same data set. The way you view it here, it's in its long format. This is wide format, sorry. So this is the long format, which is vertical, right? So in these scenarios here, this is the scenarios that we use the VLOOKUP when data is organized in this form, whereby you're having the column headers. These are the column headers. Calls offered are in the columns. So that is when you are using the what? The VLOOKUP, which stands for the vertical lookup. But now when you have the headers in the rows here, these headers are in, for instance, calls offered, the header is in. Calls answered, it's in row 3. Abandoned calls in row 4. AHT 5. SL row 6. In such scenarios, when data is in this format, think of a horizontal lookup, which is the HLOOKUP. When data is in this format, vertical, you have the column headers. Now, it's a good situation for you to think of a VLOOKUP. So in our scenario here, let me simply hide this at the moment. In our scenario here, calls, this data is wide. So we have the row headers. And the best function to use here is the HLOOKUP function. So we say is equals to HLOOKUP. So HLOOKUP, so the first argument is the lookup value. So the lookup value is this, the 10 interval in our case. But remember, we'll have to rewrite that formula over and over again for these other intervals as well, like 30, 30, and 4 p.m. So we'll have to put a dollar sign just after the column. That is after the cell. That is before the number and after the letter. And then the table array is all of this. And we will have to lock. We'll have to lock. We'll have to lock this. And then we'll have now to specify the row index number. So the row index number, it is row number. When we count, it is 1, 2. It's row number 2. So we have to say it's row index 2, and then it's an exact match. This is our answer, 68. For sure,
Fred,
for sure.
beaten?
Come up. Sorry.
Where did you, where is beaten? Beaten from which data set?
B10.
From data.
B10, B10. Ndoi hapa, ndoi. Kwa
Ama iko hapa
sababu,
chini ya matrix.
ndoi 10 am, ndoi hapa. Penye kuna matrix, acha ni highlight.
Okay. Okay. Seen. Thanks.
Yes. So, these are what we are looking at, the number of calls offered at 10 a.m. interval. So, 68. We can even cross-check with the data. When we have these calls offered here, and we navigate where we have 10 a.m., when we see here, we have 68, which means the formula is correct. 68. So the syntax is, first of all, know what you are looking for. Remember, we are looking for the number of calls that were offered at this intervals. That is what we are looking for. And that is where the B10 is coming in here. B10 is the 10 a.m. interval in our case. And then we have to specify where are we looking at. So lookup array, simply also look at it as the map where your value could be found, right? After specifying that map or that array or range, you also have to input whether you need an exact match or an approximate match. That's where put false for you to get an exact match or 0. So I'm simply click enter. Remember, I have to do the same for 8:30, 12:30, and 4 p.m. as well. So remember, when I was doing this formula, I knew I'll have to drag for me to fill for 8:30. I'll have again to drag for it to fill for 12:30, and also drag for it to fill for 4 p.m. So that's why I put a $sign before, after B, and before the number, that is B10. That's why you can see this $sign here. So when I put it after the letter, it means I want to drag across. When I put the $sign before the letter, it means I need to drag it downwards or vertical. So when I put enter, when I simply hit enter, I'll have my answers. So then, if now I need to do the same for calls answered, remember, I need to also write it again because the row index number will have to change. So for instance here, when I copy this, then paste the formula, it will still bring 68 because we haven't changed the row index number. So we have to change this to 3 for me to get the correct answer. So we can reference with this for the 10 a.m. interval. So we are getting 61. So also we can copy this and paste formula, but we'll change it. This is where now I told you the index and match is coming in, because each and every time I have to change the what? The row index number. That's why the index of match is coming to our aid. Also here, HC. So you can see these matches with this. So also I can copy this also and simply paste as formulas. So this is 4 and I have to change this to 5, right? So I'm getting an AHT of 275. Then SL, I simply do this and also paste as a formula. But now what I'll have to change, I'll have to change the row index number to 6 for me to get SL as 88%. So we do this, do that. And then these ones we can simply drag across to deal for the rest. Understood?
Yes.
Yeah. So you know when to use the HLOOKUP, right? When do we use the HLOOKUP function? Any attempt?
Tell us when to use it. There's to changanya na VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP is when we are comparing two sets.
No, let me repeat. I think earlier I showed you when your data, when you have a data that is in wide format, a data that is in wide format, it has the row headers. These are the row headers, isn't it? Senior queries, these are the row headers.
Yeah.
Yes, these are the row headers. So when your data has row headers, it's the best time to use the HLOOKUP function, which stands for horizontal lookup. H means horizontal. That's the best time to use the HLOOKUP function. Now tell me, what about this?
This one has column headers.
And so?
So here we use the index and match.
No, we use the VLOOKUP because remember, yes, we can use index and match, you are correct. But now the scenario differs. So ukitaka kujua kama data yako, if you are using the lookup and lookup reference function, if you want to know whether you want to use the VLOOKUP, does your data have the column headers? If yes, then you can use the VLOOKUP, right? If it doesn't, but it has the row headers, it's the best time to use the HLOOKUP. So in this scenario, if I'm to use the VLOOKUP, I'll be correct because my data has the column headers. Sindo sinio kweli?
Yeah.
Yes. This one has column headers, and that is the best time to use the vertical lookup, which is the VLOOKUP. V stands for vertical. H stands for horizontal.
Oh.
So think of horizontal. Just know in your mind, your data has row headers. Higher VLOOKUP, just know in your mind, your data has column headers. But now, if you find yourself, you need to write the HLOOKUP so many times, you find yourself, you need to write the VLOOKUP so many times. Now that is the best situation for you to think of index and match. Sawa?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best time for you to use the index and match function. Yeah, and we call it a day. Leo class yangu ilikuwa tu fupi. Mjue kutumia index and match na pia mjue HLOOKUP na pia VLOOKUP yenye tulikuwa tumeangalia hapo nyuma. Yeah, so we'll end it there today unless there's any question or comment.
Don't forget to stop the recording.
Let me stop with the recording.